Hi, and welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So today I wanted to share with you my top 5 audiobooks. I get asked a lot, how do I read so many books? I think it's June 14th and I've already read like 58 books. So audiobooks is my answer. I listen to an audiobook whenever I can't read a physical book, whether that's getting ready in the morning, on a long drive somewhere, while I'm cleaning, anytime that I have some quote unquote downtime where I would maybe be listening to music, typically I would listen to an audiobook or watch YouTube, but that's a whole other thing. So I figured I wanted to share with you some of my favorites that I've read previously, as well as places that I find my audiobooks to listen to. So please ignore me, I've got notes everywhere today. So my number one favorite audiobook, and the very first one that I will recommend to anybody as they're getting started with audiobooks, is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This book is hilarious. Trevor Noah is a well-known comedic person in a lot of the political realms, but his book has nothing to do with a lot of the things he talks about on a normal basis. But he was born in South Africa to a white father and a black mother, and this book talks about growing up during apartheid, and the stories that he tells and the people that he mimics, like his mother, are fascinating, unbelievable, and absolutely hilarious. I think one of my favorite ones has to do with a scene, and I believe it's his great-grandmother in their kitchen, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll leave it at that. So funny, and I'm so glad I listened to it, because I think if I would have read it, I wouldn't have got as much out of it as I did listening to it, because you get his true perspective, his accent, his imitation of his mother. It's all there, and it's all amazing. One of the other books that I read just recently this year in the spring was The House in the Cerulean Sea. Now, I have this one in book form, but I am so glad that I listened to the audiobook, because it is adorable. TJ Klune is the author of this book, but Daniel Henning did the audiobook. This book is about a man, I believe his name is Arthur. Sorry, not Arthur. Linus. Arthur is the man that owns a house, but Linus works for the Department of Magical Youth, and he goes to basically what are orphanages and checks how all of these youth are doing. And he goes to this house where nobody else is really willing to go, and meets some very interesting magical youth children. And the voices that Daniel Henning did for these kids had me laughing and feeling for them. I mean, one of the children is literally the son of the devil, and the voice that he does for them is absolutely adorable. And I think I got so much more out of listening to that book, because each of the characters had an individual voice that the narrator did, and I think that just made this book even more special than if I would have just read it. It's so good, and I highly suggest you pick that one up. Number 3, I'll put a picture up here. The Only Plane in the Sky. This is a retelling, or not a retelling, but an actual account of things that happened on September 11th of 2001. The book is great. The audiobook was so powerful. This one had clips from the actual airplane recordings. It had memoirs from the people that were in the towers or experienced things that were happening on that day in the towers, in the Pentagon, and the other places that were involved. It was so powerful to listen to, because it's a full cast, so you are feeling like you're actually hearing from the people that experience these events. It was probably one of the most powerful nonfiction novels that I have ever read. And I can remember where I was on 9/11, and so I can only imagine being there and experience it, and this book really brings that to the forefront. and listening to it, it was just another level. Definitely warnings if you can't handle some of that audio, but I really highly suggest reading this one if that's a topic that you're willing to look into. My fourth book that I want to suggest, and I do have the copy of this one as well, is Daisy Jones and the Six. First of all, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, so that's never gonna stop. But this book is fantastic on audio because, once again, it's a full cast. So each individual character that you're getting in there has a voice. And this one is about, so basically Daisy Jones and the Sixth is about a 1970s rock band. Daisy Jones is their lead singer. But you're going through all of these different phases of the band as they travel and as they grow and as the years go on. And having that full cast of an audiobook, you are truly getting, or feel like you're getting, the perspective of each different character. And I think it made the book that much more impactful. And I love Taylor Jenkins Reid because she connects her characters between all of her different books. So a character that might have been mentioned in this book will show up in Malibu Rising or The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I love all of the different connections, but this audiobook was fantastic because you truly are getting each of those characters' perspectives. A book I love on audio, and my last book that I have for this video is Crazy Rich Asians. Now this is the movie cover, and I do love this movie, but I have actually all three of the books, and I would suggest the audio for all of these. I think there's something to be said, especially when it's a book that isn't part of my own culture, that having the audiobook helps so significantly when different language is used or different vocabulary, or even in these ones, I love getting the accent of the aunties. It just makes it that much more connected, and especially these happening in Singapore, you're getting, I feel like, a more authentic setting than you would if you would just straight up read it. And there were some words that I probably would have totally mispronounced in my head, but getting the audiobook, I was able to see these. Now, Crazy Rich Asians, the book versus the movie, they are a little bit different, but it is based around Rachel Chu, who is dating Nicholas Young, and she is finally flying to Singapore for his best friend's wedding. And she doesn't know much about his family. They've been together in New York where they both live, and she's going over to Singapore to not only meet his friends, but his family, and she finds out she's kind of in for quite the ride. And this book is hilarious. You feel for Rachel and the things that she's going through. And like I said, that audiobook just truly brings you in to the setting and the mood of this book and really helps kind of round it all together, which a book would be fantastic on its own, but I truly think the audiobook just brings it up that another level. All right, so that kind of lists out the 5 main audiobooks that I have loved and read in the probably past year or two. Ones that I haven't mentioned are books that are narrated by probably my top favorite audiobook narrator ever. I do not hesitate to download or search out a book that has been narrated by Julia Whelan. And I know I'm not the first person to say that, and I definitely won't be the last. I don't know what it is, but she is probably my favorite audiobook narrator that I have ever stumbled across. She has great inflection and voice and is willing to kind of adjust her voice for the different characters so it's not so monotone. So if there is a book out there that is narrated by Julia Whelan, I for sure try to seek it out. Because like I said, I like listening to audiobooks, and yes, a full cast is great, but Julia Whelan does such a fantastic job. I will always search out a book that's narrated by her. Now you may be asking, okay, Amber, you listen to a lot of audiobooks. Where do you find these? Now, none of this is sponsored. I am not that cool yet, but I do find audiobooks in a lot of different places, and I'm going to link some in the description below. I am a subscriber to Audible, although one credit, give or take, but there are some books like Born to Crime that are only available on Audible currently. I also subscribe to Libro FM, which is an independent audiobook source. So you actually get to choose which independent bookstore your purchase profits, which I think is awesome. And that one, once again, is a 1 credit type of thing. I've got my link below just in case you want to check it out. I always use Libby. That's my library's app, whether it's ebooks or audiobooks. You usually can find something on Libby. Problem is there, yes, you are going to wait. And then finally, I use an app called Scribd or Scribd. I've heard it pronounced both ways. This is a subscription app as well, but with your 1 paid price, you get unlimited audiobooks in their library. Now, they may not have everything, but I have been very impressed with the amount of audiobooks, especially even new audiobooks, that they have. There's only been a couple that I haven't been able to find on Scribd, and I love the fact that I can listen to as many as I want in a month and not just have 1 credit. I have my link below just in case you're interested. Absolutely no pressure, and like I said, I am not sponsored. But it does get you 60 free days, and I think that's a great opportunity to kind of check it out and see if it's something you're interested in. That's how I stumbled across it. I found a link in somebody else's video, and being able to listen to as many audiobooks as I want in a month, not just limited to 1, is really awesome to me. So that kind of rounds out my 5 favorite audiobooks that I've read in the last couple years, along with my favorite audiobook narrator and a couple different places that I choose to listen to audiobooks. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below in the comments. I can't wait to hear what your favorite audiobooks is. What should I be reading? What should I be listening to? And I will see you next time.